A very good morning to one and all. I welcome and greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Shall we all put together in prayer? Loving God, we want to say thank you for your guidance, for your protection throughout the whole night, and also sustaining our life once again. Lord, as we gather with your holy sanctuary to learn something from you, Lord, be with each and every one of us. Lord, that everything which we are going to meditate be acceptable in your sight. We pray in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. For the opening hymn, let us all rise up and sing "It Is So Sweet," which will lead by the choir.
Remain standing, let's always responsibly. Protect me, O God, for in you I take refuge.
Say, Lord, you are my God. I have no good apart from you.
As for the holy ones in the land, they are the noble in whom is all my delight.
Those who choose
The Lord is my chosen portion and my cup. Behold my Lord. I bless the Lord who gives me counsel. In the night also my heart instructs me.
I give the Lord praise for me.
My body also rests secure. You show me the path of life. Please be seated.
Let us all take few moments to intercede in the sanctuary of God and pray for some of the concerns this morning. Let us all pray for those people who take care of orphans and poor. Let us pray that God should give them all required resources. And also let us remember that NGOs which are actually banned and some have been not given proper resources. So let us all pray for these NGOs, and also let us pray for different ministries which have been taking place all throughout India. Let us pray that they have to serve God according to the God's will, and also let us pray for all the pastors, and also let us pray for the safety of their families and the safety of the churches and the believers who are being in their churches. And also let us pray for different institutions, especially the institutions they have been focusing in various fields like education and other fields. Let us pray that they have to take care, they have to work according to the submission and dedication what they have done before God. Let us all close our eyes and let us all pray together as I lead. Let us all pray for these respective prayer concerns. Lord, we thank you this morning that you have given us a chance to come at thy grace. And also, Lord, we thank you that you have made us to intercede this morning for some of the concerns which have been happening in India and also all over the world, Lord. At this time, we remember some of the orphanages, NGOs which are running in India, Lord. We pray that you give them the proper resources so that they can, Lord, share your love through the action, Lord. And also we pray for some of the NGOs which are not getting the resources, and some of the NGOs which the government has banned, Lord. We pray that their work also, Lord, should be continued in the proper way in the coming days, Lord. And also we pray for the ministries which are the different ministries in India, Lord. You be with them, Lord. We pray that you safeguard all the pastors, their family, the churches, the church members, everyone, Lord, and you help them, Lord, to do your ministry in the way you want, Lord. At the same time, Lord, we pray for different institutions, Lord, who have been focusing on various fields, Lord, and especially we pray for the institutions, Lord, which are focusing in the education and some other fields, areas also, Lord. You be with them, Lord, and you help them that they should work according to your will, the dedication, what they have done to you, they have to fulfill in the course of the time, Lord. At this time, Lord, I thank you that you have given us a chance to come at that grace, Lord. I thank you and I commit all these prayer requests into your hands. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Now may I invite the choir team to sing the spiritual song, after which may I call upon the scripture reader to read the scripture.
sermon evaluation service. The scripture portion has been taken from First General Epistle of Peter, 3rd chapter, verses from 1 to 6. First General Epistle of Peter, chapter 3, verse from 1 to 6. I'm reading from NRSV. Wives, in the same way, accept the authority of your husbands, so that even some of them do not obey the word. They may be won over without a word by their wives' conduct. When they see the purity and reverence of your lives, do not alarm yourselves outwardly by braiding your hair, by wearing and gold ornaments of fine clothing. Rather, let your adornment be the inner self with the lasting beauty of Gentile and a quiet spirit, which is a very precious in God's sight. It was in this way long ago the holy women who worked in God used to adorn themselves by accepting the authority of their husbands. Thus Sarah obeyed Abraham and called him Lord. You have become our daughters as long as you do what is good and never let fears alarm you. It is said.
Once again, I welcome and greet you in this very sermon devotion service. Shall we look together in prayer? Lord, here I am, standing in front of your believers. Thank you so for me, that all the things that I'm going to do be acceptable in your sight. For I pray in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. In the journey of life, we come across many experiences from different incidents and different people, and still yet to experience many more, which is part of life. Human cannot escape from the struggle of life, but there is beauty in the struggle of life when we work in fear of God. God-fearing doesn't mean that we should only pray and meditate on His Word, but by proving it through our actions. It is easy to say something good by using many good words and so on, but it is very difficult to put it into practice. God wants the beauty of a person to be shown through one's action. Therefore, this morning I entitled my sermon as The Beauty of Godly Living. Looking at the background, Peter he himself was the author of the book of 1 Peter, which is clearly stated in opening verses, Peter, an apostle of Jesus, in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1. This letter was written while Peter was in Rome during the last decade of his life in about AD 63. This letter was addressed to Christians scattered to different places. The main purpose of Peter was to encourage Christians to endure suffering and persecution by giving themselves to God. From Nero, who blamed the Christians for burning Rome in AD 64. Peter gave the principle of respect and submission to authority, such as we can see in chapter 2, verse 13, where he talks about Christ's submission to human authority. Chapter 2, verse 18, it talks about submission of slave to the master. Chapter 2, verse 22, where it talks about submission of the father's will. And then proceed on to the Christian conduct in the family. He challenged his reader the new behavior as submissive wives and considerate husbands in chapter 3, verses 1 to 7. But we are going to focus on chapter 3, verses 1 to 6, where Peter gave direction to Christian wives to submit themselves to the authority of their unbelieving husbands. He helps his reader to identify appropriate conduct in family life during times of persecution from their unbelieving husbands. What was probably surprising to the original reader is that there is a seemingly against the traditional ethical section for wives. In that society, women are expected to follow the religion of their husbands. The women, though they might have their own cult on the side, the family religion was to be followed from the husband. Therefore, Peter addressed the Christian women as independent agents whose decision to turn to Christ he supports and whose goal to win their husbands he encourages. Therefore, looking into this background, let us study together the basics from 3 points. And the first point is a life of good conduct. A life of good conduct. During Peter's time, it is said that women had to express their submission to every human creature by the submission to their own husbands. And the society during that time expected women to follow the religion of their husband, which is non-Christian or pagan, while the wives were Christian. Therefore, Peter addressed the women as independent moral agents whose decision to turn to Christ he supports and whose goal to win their husband he encourages. The husband in question do not believe of the words of their wife, try to explain of their faith. And since these men do not accept the gospel, they were likely discouraging of their wife's dedication to Christ, attendance at Christian activities, especially when they discovered the woman no longer accepted the household religion. Therefore, Peter does not suggest that women should discontinue Christian activities, but they should not allow their freedom in Christ and domestic discomfort to make them feel superior to their husband and obey them less. Instead, they are to be a model wife which is likely to win their husband. The word win here, it means to make Christian, which is used in parallel with serve in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 19 to 22. What will win this husband will be the continuing observation of their wife is the purity of women, the purity of life. Purity of life doesn't mean that only of physical purity, but the full Christian character of the Christian virtue, and the basis of Christian virtue is reverence of God or the fear of God. The women give obedience towards God. Therefore, Peter here appeals us that we do not always have to resort to words when we evangelize people around us, but often by our behavior and we are able to influence the people and point to Christ. God calls the Christian to show obedience, love, purity, and many other more good conduct so that people could see in us the picture of Christ-like character. Moreover, guided by the word of God, a Christian or believer should demonstrate others the good conduct that is exemplary. Looking to the second point, a life of pure heart. In verse 3, we see Peter mention 3 types of external adornment that were uncommon to women: expensive clothes, jewelry, and braiding of hairstyle. Here Peter talks about the rich woman who could afford more than the simplest cloth, which is a critic of the whole culture, as well as an advice to some church members. It's not a prohibition on the decoration on themselves, but he objects to the excessive use of makeup, dresses that were common among the wealthy women or ladies in the church and society of his days. He wants the women to decorate themselves on the proper sense of value. His focus is positive. Virtue is one of the garments that any Christian woman can wear with pride. It is the hidden inner self that bears the Christian character and expresses itself through the body. The inner self means the true self, the self of the heart, the fearing of God or reverence of God, a complete obedience towards God that is performed through a life of a person which is imperishable and therefore the utmost important one, whereas the bodily clothing is a perishable one. This inner self is to be worn with a gentle and quiet spirit. Gentle and quiet spirit is a character of the human spirit, or the human spirit influenced by God's grace, such as being calm, peaceful, tranquil, to which Peter wants the women to develop all these qualities. God has given us the choice in our life, and it's we who need to choose. The path that we are taking today is the choice that we make. Many a time we live our life to our own wishes. We live our life to impress others outwardly. Human always wants to impress others, but that doesn't last long because it is just for a short period of time. But when we are true to ourselves and live our life to impress God, it is much worse than the impress that we give to human beings, because God lifted up to a person who impressed God. And the third point is a submissiveness to authority. Peter calls the past or the old women as holy. Holy does not mean only that of their perfectness in other sense, but it refers to the relationship with God. And the word here hope, Peter advised Christian women to consider the example of the godly women in OT that with their hope resting upon God, and they do not care of the decoration of their body, but they adorn themselves with the more costly ornament of a meek and quiet spirit. They show their meekness by living in subjection to their husbands. Here Peter takes the example of Sarah as the mother of a chosen people. Sarah obeyed her husband and showed her obedience by calling Abraham as Lord or Master. Here Peter doesn't mean that wives should address their husband as a spouse or as Lord or Master. But he is describing the culture of the bygone era in which women respectfully address her spouse as Lord in the ancient days. The word here on you have become her daughter. Here, daughters do not refer only to the Jewish Christian, but also as in large measure to the convert Gentiles. By faith, the Gentile woman become a daughter of Sarah, just as we read in St. Paul's epistle that they which are of faith, the same are of Abraham's children. In Galatians chapter 3, verse 7, and that Abraham is the father of all of them that believe, though they are not circumcised. When Peter says, do not fear, he means to say that when the unbelieving husband, obviously because of their faith in Christ, there will be a treatment, but he wants the Christian women do not be afraid of their treatment from their unbelieving husband, but he encouraged them to stay firm in the light of their hope in Christ. Peter takes the example of Sarah as a godly woman who show her faith through her submissiveness to her husband. As believers, we are to live as a role model of Christ for others. We live with our own family, we live under the institution like theological college, under our own church denomination, and so on. In this, we face different challenges, but we are to accept whatever comes in our way. To accept doesn't mean that we are to say yes or everything in everything that we face. But what I mean here is that we should allow all the challenges to come our way and face it with the fear and hope in God. It is through God's grace, guidance, and submission to Him which is shown with our action to others that people can come to Christ. Coming to the reflection, I want to say that Peter here, from this verses we know that Peter wants the Jewish Christian women to show their faith through the submission to the authority of their unbelieving husband. As these women were asked to submit themselves to the authority of their husband through the action, therefore as a believer, we are to show our submissiveness to God through our submission to others, and that is through our actions. And as for me, I do not think this is only applicable to women, but it is applicable to everyone, as Peter is talking about practical life in the midst of life struggle. Therefore, we are like the Christian women who were called to show our faith through our actions. Actions is a lifelong process. Christian life without action is meaningless. Every day is a challenging day for us. In the midst of it, how are we facing all the challenges? Whether one believes in God or whether one does not believe in God, everyone faces the challenges and will continue to face it. But there is a difference between the challenges that we face together with God and without God. When we do not invite God in our life, the struggle that we go through seems to be heavy, and there is no way out for the solution of the suffering and struggles. But when we submit ourselves to God and carry on the cross that we are called to carry as a believer, there is joy. The joy is nothing but the fruit that we are going to reap of our struggles. The struggle that we've gone through and that we are going to go through is and will never be in vain, because God will reward us for the struggle that we go through. And I just want to ask a question to everyone present here today, that have you ever faced the challenges from your families or from anyone of your near and dear ones, that when you decided to go for theological college or when you decided to So do minister for God. You face a lot of challenge, and this seems to be a struggle, a lot of struggle or burdens for you. If so, I am also one of you. The experience might differ from you, from one another, but we all face challenges. It was my dream from my schooling days that I want to go for theological college, yeah. And then after I passed out my matriculation exam, I asked for the permission to my parents, but they did not accept it. They say that theological studies is totally a waste, and this will not, in the future days, this will not only fill up your stomach. She says like that, and I feel like I have no option to go for theological studies, but I just want to go, and I just feel like this is what I need to do. And it was the time for me to go for my further study, and it was my dream to go for art stream, but my parents didn't want me to go for science stream. Like, it seemed like I don't have my right to take decision for myself. My parents told me that if I were to go for art stream, they are not going to support me in my studies. Therefore, I just personally go for science stream, and then I feel like I was totally lost myself in my education because that was not my aim. And then after I passed out the intermediate exam, I asked my parents to go again for the theological study, and I asked for the permission whether they will give me an option to go for BA study or to go for theological studies, but they say that they are not going to support me even in theological study or in my further study. I need to drop out of my study, and I need to get a job and look after my sibling. And it really breaks my heart, and I feel like there is no word to say anymore. I question myself. Like, my father, he has a job. My mom is good in earning money. We're not that poor, and that they do not support our sibling. And there's many reasons behind that I keep on questioning myself. And it seems like money is more important than the future of her dear daughter. Therefore, I went for the final one to go for theological study, and that was a really burdensome struggle that I faced, because my mom, she beat me so badly that if you are to go for theological studies, I will not even let you go, or I will just lock you in the room. And like, this was really so painful, and like every one of my friends, those who want to go for theological studies, they have an admission, but for me, it seemed like I will not have the chance to go for it. But as I pray to God, and there's a chance for me to go for theological studies. And yes, I experienced a lot of struggles in this theological studies, but this strengthened my faith. And finally, after going for theological studies and many experiences, later on, even my parents, especially my mom, she also began to change herself. And I'm so glad that I'm here to study in theological studies. And I just want to say that when we change ourselves, when we submit ourselves to God, then though there might be many struggles that we face, there is always a joy, because God always pull up us, God always strengthen, God always help us in our own ways. So I want to say that keep challenging yourself, keep walking in fear of God, so that there will be changes in your churches, family, society, and everywhere that we do and we go. May all of you be blessed through this sharing. Shall we to God in prayer? Loving God, we want to say thank you for the word of God that has come to each and every one of us. Lord, let this word be not in vain, but let all the words be glorifying to you for the great name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet communion of the Holy Spirit be with each and every one of us, both now and forevermore. Amen. May all pray in peace.